Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Ashley Barlow Company podcast. I'm Ashley Barlow, your host. If you are a parent, a teacher, or someone who works at a school, or you're a community member, a volunteer, or a staff member at an organization that supports people with special education plans, a coach, a tutor, or even a grandparent, you're in the right place. Sit back with an ice cold glass of lemonade, put on your walking shoes and grab some headphones, roll down the windows and cruise. Ready, set, go. Educate, advocate, collaborate. Welcome back to another episode of Special Education Advocacy with Ashley Barlow. I'm Ashley Barlow, and I'm so happy you're here. Happy? Glad? What do I usually say? I'm so glad you're here. I'm so happy you're here. I am both happy and glad, and really is there a difference between the two of them? Okay, friends, here's what's happening. We are at a place where we are recording these podcasts pretty much in real time. Sometimes we have them stacked up, sometimes literally for months. And then sometimes I go on a week by week basis. And we are currently on a week by week basis, but we have a ton of requests, invitations, let's call them invitations, out for people to join me as guests. But as I've told you before, I like to put a break into the guests to kind of address topics that are current and common for you guys. Things that I'm seeing a lot in my DMs and in my emails and in conversations and in my work as an attorney. So that's what we're going to talk about today. And we're going to do it super duper fast because two relatable moments. First of all, if you watch this on YouTube, it has been a second since I have said, you know what? Perfectly imperfect, you get me as you get me. I do have several appointments today. So sooner rather than later, I am going to have to get ready. But guess what? I had 15 minutes to record this podcast. And so you are getting me here on camera with no makeup, with hair that hasn't been brushed. And that's just, actually, my phone is propped up inside a coffee cup. That's just the way it's going to be today. And I tell you that not as an apology at all, because obviously I couldn't necessarily care much less. But I tell you that because I like to promote this lifestyle decision, this choice, this almost push that I have to be perfectly imperfect. I am a perfectionist. I am type A. I had an ulcer in the 4th grade. I put a lot of pressure on myself. I'm sitting here with a heating pad around my stomach because I'm doing some physical therapy on my core and pelvic floor and that kind of stuff. And it's super uncomfortable. And, just because I'm an uptight person, is about as high strung as you can get. And so I think it's important for those of us that have added stress of, maybe it's an acute stress of IEP stuff, or it is a long-term stress of chronic health conditions or developmental disabilities, all those therapy appointments, whatever it is, it's okay to not be quote unquote your best, right? I have joked with clients before when I show up in my athletic attire that I'm just as smart in Lululemon, and I'm just as smart if I take a break in the middle of the day to go do yoga. Actually, I'm probably smarter because that really centers me. So anyway, you are getting me today in my most unadulterated way. And since my birthday's coming up, maybe it's just you're getting me au naturel, the way that God intended me to be. I don't know, whatever. Here we go. Okay, so today we're going to talk about independent education evaluations. And the reason I want to talk about this is because I have talked a little bit on stories about IEEs. That's the acronym, Independent Education Evaluation. And the reason that, and as I've talked about them on stories, I have had a bazillion questions, and it has become clear to me that we need another primer. We need another IEE Basics. So I've gotten messages from practitioners a few outside therapists, people that work in behavior, people that work in psychology and OT, you folks. Then I've gotten a ton of questions from parents on IEEs, and I have gotten questions from teachers about IEEs. And so, like all of them, I just send, if you send me a message on Instagram, chances are you're going to get a voice message back. Because, super quickly I can be like, okay, here's like the 101 version of this topic, and I'll send you like 4 minutes of voicemail probably while I'm like putting laundry away or something. So try it, like reach out to me. I'm always happy to help you, by the way. Okay. So what are IEEs? Like that's kind of the big thing that I think we need to talk about. And so, first of all, an IEE, as I said, is an independent educational evaluation. And it is within the parent rights an idea. And so, like, basically, IDEA, remember when Congress made IDEA, they said, gosh, kids get better outcomes. We did this boatload of research, and kids get better outcomes when parents are involved in the IEP process. Eureka. That's super exciting. We're going to bypass that right now because that's not the topic of this podcast, and I'm trying to be fast. Oh, I forgot to tell you the other relatable thing. See, this is what happens. I have notes up here, but not really whatever. The other relatable thing is we have to be done within 15 or maybe 16 minutes because directly at 8 o'clock a.m. today, I have to call Medicaid. Kentucky has Medicaid waivers, which is incredible. I realize that not most of you have really awesome waiver systems. I almost hate to tell you because it's like not super fair. It's not fair at all. It's and we need to fix it. And I will continue to go to Washington, D.C. to help with this. But states, well, and really, I guess the real push should be in your state government. But anyway, Kentucky has awesome Medicaid waivers. We should do an episode on waivers, by the way. And something happened with Jack's classification within our waivers, and it is diseligibilizing us. Oh, I love making up words. It cut off our eligibility from this other program that we get that's like basically secondary to Medicaid. And it's the health insurance premium program. And that's like $700 a month, I think. And so we need to get the eligibility back for that. And because we do a lot for Jack with those benefits. And so you got to call Medicaid like right at 8 o'clock. That's where your competitive spirit can kick in. So we got to do this fast because Jack Barlow is in need of some administrative help from his team today. Okay. Anyway, IEEs are within parent rights. Remember, parents have rights. And like kind of an undertone here in an idea, and you might not feel it, and I don't think a lot of parents do feel it, and I don't think the system is necessarily set up to feel it, but the law is leveling the playing field. So like the school has all this information and all this training and experience, and parents are, we feel like we're just parents, which is not very great. So one of the things that they give us is the right to get an evaluation of our own from an independent source if we disagree with the school evaluation. So we have to give the school the first crack at the nut. What do you say? We have to give them the first opportunity to do the evaluation. If we disagree, we get our own evaluation. And here's the exciting thing. Well, one really exciting thing is my coffee is getting delivered. Thank you. What'd you say? Watch the lid. Okay. So the first exciting thing, thank you, B, is that our first exciting thing about IEEs. We're not going to cut this out because we're perfectly imperfect. First exciting thing is it's our people. Like we get to choose who does the evaluation within reason. I don't know if I would even say within reason, but we aren't talking like nuances right now. We're talking basics. But the second exciting thing is at the public expense, the school has to pay for it. So we get our own evaluation and the school has to pay for it because the system is kind of set up against us. And so this is one thing that we get from the system in order to give parents this equal playing field. Okay. So the purpose of the IEE is really to provide parents and guardians and caretakers, the people with the educational decision making, the ability to get an independent assessment, an independent evaluation to look at the child's needs and profile and that kind of thing. And like we can use this for 1,000 different things, you guys. This is super duper exciting. So basically, in order to get an IEE, the evaluation has to use the same standards that the school sets. So we have to make sure that it's like compliant with what the school's policy is. And then the examiner, the person that does the IEE or the people that do the IEE have to be qualified. So they have to be, like able to perform the evaluation that they do, which you're going to seek out those kinds of people anyway. And then the exciting thing is the school, if you get an IEE, the school team has to consider the IEE when it goes back and looks at the evaluations. So it has to be considered. Okay. It is literally this simple. All right. You disagree with something. You don't have to state what you disagree with. I think it's like kind of common suggestion. This is not legal advice, but kind of common suggestion that what you disagree with, because if this goes to due process, then you would have to state and it would have to be reasonable, right? So it's a good idea to know what you disagree with, but you can almost always find something that you disagree with in any situation in life, not just with the school's evaluation. And then you ask for it, and then the school provides it. Schools are supposed to have, this is like a big thing, schools are supposed to have lists of IEE providers that they would approve, but you don't have to choose from that list with one caveat. You are required to choose from the school's list if the school's list is so comprehensive that literally nobody that's available in the region is left off the list, which is nearly impossible. So generally speaking, you don't have to choose off of that list. Okay, so that's kind of how you get an IEE. What happens if the school says no? Well, that is actually not actually possible under the law. So if the school does not want to give you an IEE, their form of recourse is to file due process. That's what they have to do. They have to file due process. They can't just say no and like leave it floating in the wind. They have to file due process and say, the parent asked for it, we don't want to give it, and so we're going to file due process. And that has to be done in a reasonable amount of time. I'm sorry about this word reasonable that keeps arriving in the law, but it has to be done in a reasonable amount of time. And there's case law for all the different circuits that say like what a reasonable amount of time is. I don't know, maybe it's like 2 months-ish, right? But there could be circumstances that advance it or delay it or whatever. So it has to be done in a reasonable amount of time. If the district denies it, what they have to do is they have to provide prior written notice as to why they've denied it, and then they have to file due process. Aha, that is a big thing. Now, what if they don't file due process? What do you do? Should the parents file due process? And so that's a procedural violation? I don't know. That's a really, really, really good question. But anyway, that's where we are. So those are about like a comprehensive list of IEE basics. It really seriously is that simple. Hugely, hugely important, hugely useful, because not only do we get good information, but we can use it for things like behavior discussions, reading discussions, inclusion discussions, executive functioning discussions, all of these different things, assistive technology, like things that are not like your baseline stuff that school's going to do. So I think the IEE is super helpful. I'm a big fan of the IEE. I request them quite often. I have gotten really great information from IEEs that have helped parents help kids get the services, supports, and skill set that they need. And I hope that you will find them helpful as well. I have 1 minute until I have to make my call. Great timing. I will talk to you soon. I will see you next week, same time, same place, only I'm going to be on spring break and at a swim meet. And so I'm going to pre-record it. I'll talk to you soon.